Welcome to the league with your host, Benoit Tangent and David Magid. You might know me as the Solar Maverick. I have a podcast called the Solar Maverick Podcast. You give us 5 minutes and we give you the latest clean energy trends. Happy New Year. This is actually our first podcast of 2026, and it's actually January 16th, 2026. And obviously, the solar coaster, there's things always changing and the industry's always adapting. Today, I want to focus on two major stories in the US solar market. One is the near-term pain the industry is going through, and the other thing is the long-term outlook for solar is still great. Solar is the cheapest form of electricity and fastest to come online. Obviously, 2025 was an extremely difficult year for the US solar industry. It was really due to shorter federal subsidy windows, the current administration actively halting renewable energy development, high interest rates, inflation, tariffs, and this resulted into bankruptcies, furloughs, and layoffs across the industry. It was specifically the big, beautiful bill that was passed in July that actually took a lot of the incentives related to the ITC away and a faster step down of the 30% tax credit. It did actually keep transferability, which actually makes it easier to do tax credit transactions. And they also actually kept the adders at 10% adders for energy communities and domestic content. It has been challenging now because, like, for an entity of concern where you can't get a lot of the material from China, or even the companies can't be owned primarily by a Chinese company. They would have to be minority investors. And that really like goes into 2026 when you talk about nearer term projects. We were supposed to receive FERC guidance around August, early September. Now we're in January of 2026. We still haven't received guidance from that. From what all these things happening, it's obviously impacted jobs. What we could tell is that there's been 30 clean energy jobs tied to major projects that were canceled as of October 2025. Also, some of the biggest names in residential solar have been hit. Now, a customer cannot actually take the 30% investment tax credit, meaning starting in 2026. So they would have to go through third-party financing, either through a lease or PPA. Also, some of the other residential companies, Posgen, some of the other bigger companies, Spruce Power, Blue Ridge Power, Pine Gate Renewables. I'm probably missing some as well. And there's companies on the manufacturing side as well. But here's the key point. This is not the end of solar. This is a reset. The companies that get through this difficult period, it's gonna continue. Solar is gonna continue to grow exponentially as the cost of storage too goes down, and that allows an intermittent power source like solar to be used baseload. And then the other thing that I thought was incredible was ERCOT. Solar is beating coal in Texas. If you're not familiar with ERCOT, that's the Electricity Reliability Council of Texas. ERCOT manages 90% of Texas's electricity load and serves more than 26 million people. It's one of the largest and most competitive power markets in the country. And now solar has passed coal. And this is a major milestone. This is not driven by subsidies. It's driven by solar being cheaper and easier to deploy online. Texas is proving, the numbers are proving, and the market is proving solar is becoming a core source of power in the United States. And that's that.
Benoit, always love all the great information. And just as you indicated, solar is here to stay. It's part of the energy mix and is not going anywhere. Thank you so much for the great insights.
Anytime. I'm excited about what you're talking about, some exciting developments in nuclear. And
That's
obviously,
right.
a diversity of fuel sources. It's not just going to be solar for the energy transition.
It's not. No, there is some major news that came out in 2026. Hochul hit us with some really astonishing numbers, 8 gigawatts of nuclear clean generation that is looking to be deployed within the state of New York. As it currently stands, there's approximately 3.2 gigawatts of nuclear that is currently operating in New York State. This nuclear power is all owned by one organization called Constellation Energy, who all of us know. That being said, the nuclear market in New York State, has gone through various different stages, has undergone, financial challenges due to the high operating costs of these projects. Years ago, there was these ZEC incentives, zero energy credits that have been implemented. With this new investment, we're expected about $33 billion to be invested within nuclear. Currently, nuclear, makes up approximately, 20% of all of the generation in New York State. So this is really going to help us reach all of the objectives of a clean grid, providing that firm baseload power. This is going to be hitting in Wayne County and Oswego County. Oswego County is where, some of these major facilities are that are currently operating. These communities love nuclear power. They're advocating for it. A big component of this is workforce development and other items that have been pointed out in some of these reports that we'll leave into these links is the standardization of these projects and be able to really create a process that is uniform in New York State to be a leader, for several other markets. New York State is going toe to toe with Texas to see who's able to really, become this leader in the nuclear power space. Large loads such as Micron's fab facility in Zone C are also driving a lot of this demand. Next topic we're going to be speaking about is FERC, put in place an order to PJM on the co-location, bringing your own power to these large power sources, which which large power sources I'm going to say. So I'm not even going to say what I'm referencing because everyone knows these large loads that I'm talking about in the PJM market. And these large loads, there's 4 different tariffs that should actually hit in perhaps February, March of 2026. These tariffs will be implemented to allow firm and non-firm services from the grid, further clarifying behind the meter generation for large loads. We're talking about, perhaps, 500 megawatts, a gigawatt of generation, power plants, co-locating to these large loads. So finally, tariffs being put in place. And in addition to that, a pathway, for these facilities to get online quickly with non-firm power, but be able to firm up, that power source in years to come. So really this framework that FERC, is putting orders onto PJM is really in response to doing 2 items. A, not deferring all of these costs within these capacity auction markets, to the retail ratepayers and having, these mom and pops and other, businesses, cover the high expenditure costs and capacity rates for these large loads, and B, providing more flexibility to get there quicker. So really exciting. We are going through a revolutionary time right now in the electricity markets. It's hard to keep up with all of these changes, almost mind-boggling what's going on. So stay tuned, stay watching, make sure you hit like, subscribe, enjoy all the content. God bless.
Thank you.